Cosmo Talk. Do you actually know how many episodes we've done so far? Splitting
like 20 or
Atom.
30?
It's actually the 13th today.
13th.
13th,
Cool.
yes.
Well, this one's special. Do you know what's special about it?
What's special?
It's lucky number 13, A, but B, it's my birthday today.
It's your birthday? Wow. Yeah. Congrats.
Thank you,
Congratulations.
sir.
Happy birthday.
That. 37.
Nice. 37.
So, yeah.
Nice.
There you go.
How do you feel? What's your plan today? What are you doing?
Working. And then I think my wife is a surprise for me this afternoon. So that should be fun.
Yeah, you shouldn't work too much on your birthday.
You shouldn't, but sometimes you need to. Thank you.
I mean, honestly, like that's the thing about crypto, right? It's like, it doesn't matter if it's your birthday, if it's a Sunday, if it's a holiday, like this shit never turns off, you know? It's just, it's always on. No. It's always something. So.
Yeah, you know, it's this is why I think it's really important to I work relatively regular hours, and like I like tweet stuff after hours, but trying to like build in that time in the day where you take time to go do something that's not sit in front of a computer, really important. Thank you guys. Thank you for the birthday.
What do you actually do? Like do you do any sports or anything?
Yeah, I you know, I really used to bike a lot. I've kind of fallen off that, but we've got a lot of mountains near where I live, and I like to hike. So hiking is my big thing. I'll go out and go on 1.5, 2 hour hikes. Got a dog. She loves to run around. That's my thing.
No, that's a good balance. When everything's turned off, you're in the fresh air. Definitely. Do you do any like gym, lifting, anything like that?
Yeah, I've got some kettlebells here. I've got a gym that I was going to for a little while. I need to get back to it. It's a good reminder. Yeah, I like the more like functional strength type stuff. I don't love doing like bench presses and stuff like that. You know, give me some kettlebells and some tires to flip around and something to push and maybe something to swing, and like that's kind of how I prefer to work out these days. More CrossFit style, but not actually CrossFit.
You know what's actually severely underrated is martial arts or combat sports.
Totally.
Like I have never been like into fighting or anything like that, but when I was living in Colombia in 2019, I started taking Muay Thai classes.
Oh yeah.
It's just like the first session was just basically learning how to walk, and like I mean, it's so technical, and it's also like challenging in your mind, right? Because every step is like everything is just calculated, and there's technique behind it. So I think severely underrated, like any sort of martial arts or boxing even.
I was a wrestler for like six years in school, so that was my sport. Very similar in that way.
Yeah, I already get your gym recommendation. There's actually a lot of MMA here in Dubai. Like here in the marina where I'm at, there's a big gym. So I actually want to start, but now the bull run is coming back, and you know, I'm just glued to my screen more than ever. But yeah, how do you feel about? I mean, the past 2 years have obviously been really, really tough. But how do you feel about this recent relief? This recent excitement?
I mean, it feels good. You know, it's we've seen a lot of shitty rallies over the last couple of years. This one feels different. You know, this time is different. TM. Yeah.
But
I don't know.
Do you feel like? Do you feel this is just relief, or do you feel like the market has suffered enough and like up only from here?
I think.
Or do you not even care that much? I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, I care for sure. I guess I'm like, you know, hesitant to declare this full up only mode. I think that there are a lot of geopolitical headwinds with what's going on in the Middle East, what's going on in Ukraine. Obviously, the sort of debt situation and the regulatory situation in the U.S. is bad, but you know, I think that we've reached that point in the bear market where, yeah, prices have gone down a lot, but a lot of the innovation is starting to show in the products. And I think on the Cosmos side, it's really been in the last 6 months where we've seen Skip API, Squid, TFM make this huge difference in IBC usability. More products like Levana and Cosmos Millions and DYDX and, tons of things launching. So there's more stuff to do. This is what bear markets are for. They bring out the builders and they bring out these sort of advances that help set the stage for the next influx of users. So, we've seen that play out, which is super positive. And I think, after saying like, hey, new users are coming soon to Cosmos with all these launches, like we're finally in launch season and like, lo and behold, it's driving volume, which is great. So yeah, I mean, I guess I would say I'm cautiously optimistic. I do think Bitcoin has a good chance to hold up in the macro environment. And if Bitcoin holds up, then that will kind of hold up the rest of the industry, is my guess.
Do you actually still like, do you hold any Bitcoin, or like, do you still believe in it, or is that like your store of value where you?
I mean, I have a few Bitcoins that I've held on to.
But it's not like Bitcoin by far the number one, and then.
No. Yeah, no, I mean, Zito, I've made most of my money in this Cosmos thing. So I've kind of just kept it there generally.
Okay.
And that's, when I started in crypto back in 2014, 2015, when I like made my first Bitcoin investment early, like very, very early 2014, I remember looking around. I was like, man, this is cool. Like, how do I get more of these things? And people were like, well, you got to go earn them. You got to like go work for Bitcoins. And, I've always had it as my mindset that like the best way to earn this stuff is like go out and build something and like earn it for your work. And most of the money I've earned in US dollar terms and like most of the crypto I've earned has all been like from actually doing work in the ecosystem. So yeah, like I haven't gone and like periodically traded a whole ton of it back into Bitcoin or anything, but yeah, it's times like this when I wish I had a larger Bitcoin position.
Do you not sometimes feel like, I mean, we can also hear your kids screaming, like, do you also feel like sometimes, with the responsibilities you have, your family, your house, like, what if this Cosmos thing doesn't play out? Like, do you think sometimes like that? And like, do you hedge yourself? Like,
this is why I've spent so much time doing the IBC expansion work, and Strangelove does other work besides just Cosmos stuff. It's definitely something that I worry about and a source of stress.
Okay. But like financially, I mean, you said you have a few Bitcoins, but you're not like, okay, I have massively hedged my position. Or even I think with Strangelove, like validator-wise, I mean, that's, generating revenue as well. But I think it's also mostly Cosmos chains, right?
Right now, yeah, we only do Cosmos chains right now.
Yeah. But yeah, because I think,
mean, look, I've like when this market has been down, like I have experienced that as well. Like it's not like I got out at the top and sold the whole thing, I think that what I do is I run engineering teams and build products, and that's always in demand. And, worst case scenario, everywhere in the world bans crypto and it becomes really hard to work in this thing and they try to put me in jail or whatever, I can always go back to building other software products. So, but barring that, which not going to happen, I'm going to keep trying to do this because it's a good living, building software products, you make decent money, and it is, helps drive forward the state of the art in a particular industry. And that's what I'm here to do in Cosmos. And like, that's why I do this work. And, the outsized returns come from building a community, building a software stack that people really use and get a ton of value out of. And, betting on that. And the only way to do that is to take a risk when it's uncertain. And I think that that's been the case with Cosmos for a long time. You know, it is the architecture that's pretty clearly the right one. And I think that I saw that back in 2018, as did a lot of other folks. But what we've seen play out in the market is like that's effectively been validated. And even though Cosmos is kind of chaotic and a little wild, you know, there's still very clearly value here. Billions and billions of dollars on top of these chains, even in the depth of the bear. And in the height of a bull, it was hundreds of billions of dollars. You know, I think it's tens of billions now. Like those are huge numbers. And what we've built clearly has value. And I think as an entrepreneur, what you need to do is trust that and trust in your ability to go capture some of that value and like build a company on top of it. And that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, I really think it's about like taking risks and being open to that.
Yeah.
And also what you say is like, and I think you expressed it really well, is your confidence in your skills, right? And whether you're a developer or I'm a content creator and like connecting people, but I think everyone has a skill. And like, I know some people are right now on the fence to think about, should I go full-time in crypto or not? What would be your advice for them? Like if we assume like we're in the bear market now,
going full-time in crypto, this is the right time to do it. Do it when it's calm. You know, because I think that a lot of people, I guess the way that I've always thought about this is like the market timing is your labor is an investment. The time that you spend on something is the most valuable investment you can make. And you know, it is, you can always make more money, but you can't make more time. We as humans have a set amount of time that we're given. So like that is, I think, inherently the most valuable thing we have. So like think about your time as an investment. And if you think about that, and then you go look at the chart, you know, you want to invest when prices are low. And I think what stops people from investing when prices are low is you don't have any money when prices are low, so you can't invest. But what you can always invest is your time. So if you invest your time when prices are low, when numbers go up, you get outsized returns. And what that looks like in your career is raises. Like obviously financially, you'll probably do better. Whatever sort of incentive-based compensation you get will be great. But then you also learn how to manage, take on greater responsibilities at work, see the output of your work be used by more and more people. And you know, if you start at a time when there's not a lot of folks, when more folks come in, you get to see that in a real way and have a really positive experience. But, you know, if you're someone who came into the industry in the height of 2021, you've seen down only for the last year, and you were thrown into a time that was extremely chaotic, and your workplace is undergoing layoffs and number go down. So is this the right time to go work in crypto? There's never a better time to go work in crypto than in a bear market.
I also think right now is a great time because everyone is more accessible, right? And I saw someone tweeting also earlier, like bear markets are for builders.
Yeah.
And you go to an event. We also can talk about customers in a second. We actually haven't talked since then. But now it's like if you want to connect to a founder, like now they're very accessible. Like in a bull market, when prices are exploding and there's a huge influx of new people, you can't even get in touch with them so easily. So I think now really is the best time to get in touch with good projects, reach out to people, go to local events in your city, and just step into this industry.
I mean, I do want to talk about Cosmoverse in a second because holy shit, Cito, you throw an amazing conference. But that point about accessibility is so key. I think when I came into the industry, I came in early 2017. And during that bull market, I basically only met people from my company. But when I started working in Cosmos, it was during the bear market in 2018. And I met everyone.
Yeah.
Like all the early Ethereum people, all the early Cosmos people. And every time I went to a conference or people would come to Berkeley or whatever it was, I was just like, oh my God, I'm meeting all these people that I've thought are the leading lights in this industry. And like, they're listening to me about what I work on. Like, that's wild. And, you know, it is still a small industry in a lot of ways. And if you're out there and you're like, man, I want to go work in this thing, like, go meet the people. Folks are accessible. Ask. You know, I do my best to answer DMs, and I try to talk to folks and help steer them in the right direction. Now, I can't always do anything, but I try sometimes. And you know, I think most of the other folks in this industry do the same.
Yeah, it's also funny. Like, I think you were also an early Tendermint employee, right?
I was,
back in the
yeah.
days. And like, just now, you know, with everything we went through, and you know how Cosmos looks today, like thinking that you and Zaki and Fede, Jacob, did you like? There was a time where you were all in the same company. Like, how was that? Like, how was that back in the days?
Yeah, so Jacob was not there at the same time we were. I think we had about a week of overlap right as we were walking out. But how was it? I mean, the story I always like to tell about this is my first day at Tendermint. I had a couple of video interviews, and then I had this one really weird 15-minute phone interview with Zaki, where he was basically like, yeah, you should come work here, and then hung up on me. Which is really funny. Then I got an offer letter like 30 minutes later. So I had never met anyone from Cosmos like in real life. I just like talked to a bunch of people on video calls, and I show up in the office, and Ishmael from Celestia, Bucky, Jay, Sunny, Dev, Fetty, Dojmos, like everyone's there. And I walk in, and like, you know, someone's rolling joints in the back, someone's got a bottle of liquor out, everyone's talking about BFT databases. And it was just this unbelievably fertile intellectual climate where all anyone wanted to do was talk about solving these distributed system scaling problems with this new financial internet we're building. And there were a ton of folks, Fetty, Dev, Sunny, Jay was there, Jin, Jay's brother, and a few other folks were based out of Berkeley, and that was kind of the headquarters. And people would be there with some regularity. But we all hung out in the same Slack. And yeah, it was, you know, I think that we've seen what all those folks have gone on to do. But it's really incredible what you can get done when you have so many talented, passionate people all working together under the same roof. And I think that that's, you know, what people broadly see as a huge issue with Cosmos is that those people have all spread out and they're not really coordinated right now. And, you know, that is a problem. It's been a hard thing to figure out since the beginning. But I think that this is kind of an inherent property of highly entrepreneurial ecosystems is the folks that come in the beginning are inherently entrepreneurial, and those folks don't want to work for other people. So you get this kind of like too many chiefs, not enough Indians type thing. Yeah, you know, it's a hard problem to solve, but what I do see, especially over the last 6 to 12 months, is a lot more coordination across the ecosystem.
Yeah, and I think, you know, Cosmos having also this fully on-chain governance philosophy. Every decision needs to happen on-chain. Besides the funding situation, and you know, it's a whole different seminar. But yeah, I agree, and like I see like how more and more community members are actually stepping up, building their own projects. But I think it's also a side effect of this app chain philosophy, right? Where you don't have one single chain, one single company that runs everything, but a lot of distributed teams that all sometimes even have their own interests, conflicts of interest. But I think overall, like, and going back to what we talked earlier about the bear markets, I would not want to be in any other crypto ecosystem right now, to be honest. Like, I mean, I made this video like 2.5 or even 3 years ago, I think 2.5 years ago, which was, I think, my discovery of Cosmos, where I basically said, I compared Polkadot to Cosmos, And back then the ratio was 2-1, like in Polkadot's favor. Now it's actually the opposite. Like Atom actually outperformed Dot massively over the past, over this horizon, without counting in rewards, without counting in airdrops, just alone the price. And I think what you've seen now also with the creation of the Atom Economic Zone and consumer chains, Cosmos as a whole, we're going to talk about Celestia, DYDX, all of that. It's all coming together. And I feel, Cosmos is coming out of this bear market incredibly strong.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think that if you look at the developer numbers, that's, we're building a platform. You need developers to build on top of that platform to bring in users. And so, we as Cosmos, and like this is a strategy that I've kind of spearheaded, have focused on winning that developer market. And I think that what you see in those Electric Capital Developer Report numbers is that Cosmos has the largest and healthiest developer ecosystem outside of Ethereum. And we've done that with virtually no incentives. And if you also look at it, we're not losing people. People come and they stay. And I don't think that's a mistake. I think that's the sort of killer app of Cosmos is we built for developers, and we built something that developers want and need. And that's the first step. And then getting applications on top of that, which is where a lot of the conversation has been lately, is like clearly of the utmost importance, but you can't do that until you have the developer community. And, I think the other ecosystems that have done a good job at this is Ethereum, obviously, and then Solana. And those are the three ecosystems that are still relevant right now. Basically, everything else has kind of become irrelevant. And, look at Zaki's response to the Avalanche IBC news, I think is kind of a great data point there. It's like, 2 years ago, Avalanche IBC would have been massive news and a huge catalyst. But now people are like, we shouldn't have spent money on that. Like, we should have done something else with that money, which I think is hilarious. But yeah, I mean, things change relatively quickly. But I do think that there is utility for IBC connecting to some of these sort of like more disused ecosystems, because there is still capital there and it wants out. So giving it a way to get out is a good idea. Anyway, yeah, so Cosmoverse, we haven't touched on that yet. Incredible being in Turkey. I had an absolute blast, and the conference was amazing. How did it go for you?
I mean, overall, it was, the biggest customers we ever had, over 1,400 people, like from all over the world. I felt like this year the vibes were a bit different compared to last year. It was much more productive. I think the feedback I'm getting also from people like, Sunny and others is like they had a lot of very productive meetings and conversations. So you could really tell like this was the bear market builders conference, but I think still we had a lot of like great vibes, side events, parties, the Flix Fest. So yeah, overall, I was just so exhausted. And like, even now, now I'm in Dubai, I got my apartment, I'm settled now. It's just been very exhausting, the travels, the preparations and everything. So but it's been a huge success from our side. Just like small things I would like to improve. Like as an organizer, you always see things that go wrong instead of the things that go well. But yeah, it was amazing overall. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way. I didn't make it last year, but comparing the vibe to like Paris with Nebular and Modular and stuff like that, there was a lot more pessimism, and Paris felt more like very bear markety. I think Cosmoverse was like definitely builders. Like it was folks who were stoked. I also had a lot of great conversations, good seeing people, and the vibe was like generally upbeat and positive, which is great. Where, Paris felt kind of, there was a lot of angst in the air.
Yeah. And I will also say, like, there were a couple of projects. Unfortunately, I'm not going to name any names, but like this year was a little bit weird because, you know, as we're a super small team, unfunded, like we have to trust a lot of people that come, that tell us things that later don't turn out as, you know, we were thinking.
Yeah.
And it's been, you know, a big lesson this year. Like we learned a lot, like behind the scenes structuring and putting this together. So that was a little bit of a bitter aftertaste, some things after Cosmoverse. But it's also on us to make sure that next year we apply the lessons learned here. But yeah, maybe also the sentiment, the market, you know, it's hitting on everyone. So I also understand that part. But yeah, how is it from like Strangelaw's perspective? Like, did you make any meaningful connections or anything, anything productive that came out of it for Strangelaw's?
Oh yeah. I mean, you know, it's like we do business across a number of different Cosmos chains with a number of different teams, and you know, that's Cosmoverse is the only place where we can go see everyone all at the same place. So yeah, we had a ton of great conversations with folks. You know, we've had this IBC road mapping thing, and I felt like we had a number of good conversations about that. And then presenting Gordian was a huge piece. Andrew did that. Yeah, I think I saw the video for that go out recently for one of the workshop rooms.
Yeah, the Hacker Lounge.
Yeah, but we need to post that video. Gordian's going to be a big part of next year for us, I think.
So what's Gordian?
Firedancer for Cosmos.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
So what is Firedancer in Solana? Firedancer is another implementation of the Solana consensus protocol with a focus on performance. And I think that, you know, looking at the Celestia launch, what did we see? We saw a lot of transaction congestion on osmosis. There's been a lot of discussion recently about the mempool and the peer-to-peer networking within Tendermint and what are the sort of deficiencies there. And I think what a lot of folks outside of the core development teams don't understand when they look at these issues, they're like, oh, you can go fix the peer-to-peer. You can go fix the mempool. There's been two separate efforts that each spanned over a year to substantially refactor the peer-to-peer system within Tendermint. And there's been multiple attempts to try to make this mempool situation better. And both of those P2P refactor efforts failed. And in fact, the most recent one was the 0.35 release, which you guys might remember. It sort of set Tendermint back to development back a year. And that was primarily because of the P2P work. Because they didn't have a P2P network that could come to consensus. So when you're looking at a piece of software, there's two directions you can go, sort of iterative improvements and refactors, or you can do a from scratch reimplementation. We've been trying iterative improvements and refactors in Tendermint for going on 3 or 4 years now, and we have substantially the same piece of software that we did back in 2019. ABCI++ is a nice addition, but it doesn't address any of these underlying performance concerns. And I think that the issues there have to do with the way that the code is structured. If you think about a picture of a bunch of server racks where you have cords all over the place and they're kind of like plugged directly into these computers with no real rhyme or reason, that's kind of what the existing Tendermint code base looks like and why these refactor efforts have failed. The cables aren't labeled. It's hard to figure out where they go. And a from scratch reimplementation, what we can do is like do nice cable management, ensure that everything's labeled. And the combination of that, once we do that with the core piece of the software, it enables us to do performance tuning on the pieces like P2P, the mempool, block propagation, and all kinds of other fun stuff like that. So one of my engineers, Mark Rushikoff, started in, I believe, February or March of this year, doing a from-scratch reimplementation of Tendermint. He got it coming to consensus earlier this year, and we demoed a version of it at Cosmoverse. We've got a couple of folks that we're working with to help mature it and ensure that it meets the sort of needs of the different projects. But we think that this is a huge missing piece in the ecosystem, is performance on top of the Cosmos SDK. And we think that the way to get there is through a more performant Tendermint. So Firedancer for Cosmos.
Nice. I also want to add to the Cosmoverse success this year. One of the, well, besides that we had the second stage, the hacker launch that you're alluding to, where you gave the talk. This was a first for us, but also that we had other ecosystems participate. So actually Avalanche was there, Polkadot, even sponsored, like Polkadot was a sponsor. They have an events grant. So the money came actually from the Polkadot in DOT. And it was cool that, you know, they sponsored, they came, they gave a talk, the Web3 Foundation themselves. We had Polygon there. Polygon gave a good talk. I don't know if you got the chance to listen to that. I know you were running around all the time, but it was cool to see that, you know, Polygon, Polkadot, all these other ecosystems were there, and even Enterprise, which I believe is one of the biggest underdeveloped territories in Cosmos, is enterprise onboarding. Like, what are your thoughts on that? And like, who do you see doing a good job there?
I mean, I think I just want to call out Provenance here. Provenance is a finance-focused startup that is started by Mike Cagney from, I think, SoFi. And they're focused on enterprise adoption of Cosmos SDK applications. I think they've got around $10 billion in TVL on their chain, and the coin's coming to Osmosis soon. They've been doing a fantastic job at bringing financial products from major financial institutions on chain and going to sell that product into the enterprise. We're working closely with them at Strangelove to help expand that reach. But you know, if you look at this whole real world assets narrative, Provenance is one of the largest deployments, if not the largest deployment of real world assets on chain. 10 billion is a huge number. And like, there's not really that over on Ethereum in any of those protocols. So I think that Cosmos is actually doing great in this enterprise adoption. And, you know, I see a question down there from Stefan that's kind of related to this that I'd like to address, which is, why are you fixing Tendermint for Osmosis? Aren't there a ton of finance Cosmos L1s, like Say, that are performance oriented? Firedancer for Cosmos sounds like narrative chasing. Stefan, I think that what isn't broadly appreciated is that these performance concerns are shared by all Cosmos chains, and that the existing Tendermint code base has some strong limitations into what performance you can wring out of it. And in order to really get good performance, you need some deeper refactors and changes to some of the subsystems that requires much more modularity out of the code base that exists. So I don't think it's narrative chasing. I think that there's a real need there, and we're looking to hit that.
What do you think about Fetch AI?
That's so Fetch. Stop trying to make Fetch happen. I don't know. I think it's cool. Yeah, I haven't looked deeply into the project, honestly. Can you give me the quick 5-minute pitch on it?
Quick 5 minute. I mean,
or 1 minute.
The interesting thing about them, and like, I'm not deeply aware, right? I just had the founder of my channel a couple months ago, like back in March or April, and they're building these AI agents that are running on their chain. It's a full-on Cosmos chain. They're part of the Cosmos family, but you don't really see them on Twitter and elsewhere, you know, promoting themselves as Cosmos. And what's funny is that Cosmoverse, literally on the last day, 2 guys came to me that worked at Bosch, which is arguably one of the biggest companies.
I chatted with them. They were great.
Yeah, they were amazing. And like they came to me and was like, they were just jumping off to the airport. And then we had a brief chat before they left. And they actually came, I didn't even know that, like fully paid by Bosch. This was a business trip for them. They just came because they were very interested in learning about Cosmos. They've also been, watching my videos, probably also Splitting Atom, which helped them to learn about it. But they've been around for some time in crypto, and they chose, I had follow-up calls with them, and they decided to bet on Cosmos basically. And part of their team is very, very close with Fetch. So they in fact have a partnership with Fetch where they build
awesome
pilot projects to basically deploy these agents and see how this could help their products for the automotive industry that they're building solutions for. But yeah, I had follow-up calls with them, and they're very, very excited about Cosmos. And they actually want to go really, like, they want to do something in Cosmos. So, and maybe through Fetch,
That's
so
cool.
that's why.
Yeah, I had some contact with them. I lost their contact info. Anyway, need to connect up with them.
I will tell them to also talk with you and with others. But yeah, they're amazing, and just to see those things happen at Cosmoverse was great this year, to be honest.
Yeah.
There's Enterprise, Vodafone was there, Deutsche Telekom was there. Some of them are even like running nodes on Cosmos chains, which is cool.
I mean, I think that what people don't really appreciate about the Cosmos stack is how tailor-made it is for enterprise. Like, these enterprises want to own their own systems. They're used to, especially the larger ones, are used to running complex software systems. And these are way easier to run than traditional clustered databases. Like, I've seen what traditional clustered databases look like. It's hard. And, Tendermint is you kind of like throw it up there, you can kind of bang on it, and it's easy. And these enterprises also, like, they'll do pilot projects on places like Polygon or Solana, but they want to own the stack. They don't want to take on platform risk and do that. And the only truly open source ecosystem with no strings attached out there that offers interoperability and all of the great features is Cosmos. And like, this is why we have strong enterprise adoption. It's why Provenance kind of came out of nowhere, picked it up, and has been able to be incredibly successful, because the stack is great for enterprise.
I want to entirely change topic now. I want to talk about the Atom halving.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's great. I think we should have done it a long time ago.
So the Atom halving, I know Zaki is like actually preparing like to go on chain. Would basically cut the inflation roof in half from 20 to 10%. And I think, ever since that first Twitter engagement came up, people are scared about their staking rewards going down, about, validator revenue that might be against this. Like, so how do you feel about this? And like, what would you say to somebody that would kind of like, hey, doesn't this kill our staking rewards, which we love so much after all? What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like we as an ecosystem need to make a decision. Do we want to hold on to short-term gains, or do we want more long-term potential? And, this has been offered in front of folks a number of times, and I hope we make the right decision this time. And the right decision is it's time to stop paying out so much money in inflationary rewards that doesn't actually increase security and cut emissions. If we can do that, it's a very strong signal to investors. I'd be really excited about that.
Do you think that, I mean, somebody also asked earlier, like, how, if you're bullish on Atom, like, how do you view Atom now? And like, that's the name of the show, Splitting Atom. Like, that's how it started. We talked about the Cosmos Hub in the early days and got everyone's views on it, but I'm sure over the years it evolved. So how do you see Atom also after Cosmoverse, which, by the way, Cosmoverse was the very first conference where Atom had a physical representation through the AAL, which is already like a game changer. But how do you feel about the hub today?
I think I was more bullish on it after the conference than I was before. I think that the AA DAO is doing a great job. Yusuf and Bindi and Better Future and the whole crew over there, I think, are really possibility result driving things forward. I think the last time you asked me this question, I said I'm neutral, and I think that's kind of still where I'm at on the hub. I think that I have a lot of concerns about the lack of scalability around ICS. It seems like the hub is kind of drawing inwards currently, focusing on atomic IBC and things like that, where it's much more focused on building up the hub itself instead of figuring out how to grow Cosmos and capture value. And this is my potentially idiosyncratic view on the hub, is that the only way the hub is going to be successful is if Cosmos is going to be successful, A, and then B is the hub needs to figure out something of value to sell to the broader Cosmos. Interchain security has been a nice thing to drive that narrative during the bear market, and we've picked up a couple of nice functionalities around liquid staking, a smart contracting platform, hopefully Noble with real world assets here soon, whenever that happens. But we're kind of reaching the scalability limits of ICS. And I think that the conversations about the Stride merger and the potential osmosis merger reveal how much the hub is starting to compete with the broader ecosystem and potentially go into a place where it's going to retard the growth of the broader ecosystem. I think that risk is mitigated by Celestia and DYDX coming in and Cosmos having more centers of gravity than just the hub, but it opens up additional risks for the hub. And, I'd like to see the hub bring in more outside development teams rather than rely on just one, and do a better job of being a true hub of activity within the ecosystem, rather than just trying to do the same playbook that every other L1 does by checking the box of perps and DEX and lending and, liquid staking derivatives and things, and trying to build this sort of insular economy. So, yeah, I'm interested about what you think about the informal proposal.
Just maybe high level, like I have a very different view on that.
Yeah.
And I come from a very different angle, because I think my observation is basically that I believe cosmonauts as being very technical, focused on products, which is great. Sometimes they forget that what actually matters for market cap go up, price go up, is not necessarily only value accrual, right? What's the value accrual for XRP? What's the value accrual for ADA, Doge, right? It's you have all these 10 billion, 30, 40, $50 billion cryptocurrencies. They don't have value accrual. They're not bigger because they have better value accrual mechanisms. They're bigger because they have a larger community, more awareness, more integrations, more liquidity, more everything, right? A stronger network, strong BD.
Yep.
And in Cosmos Hub, I think, which is why I'm more bullish on it now, is because for the first time, we're seeing more and more alignment as we talked about, right? And I think we're still not there yet, but I think what we should also not forget, at least, or maybe even focus more on, is what's the vision for the hub, what's the direction for it, right? And Atom 2.0 was this bold idea, but I think out of this came a lot of new ideas, new teams, refined ideas. I just made a video about Time Wave, which they're now serious about.
Love the Time Wave guys.
And this is an amazing idea to add additional value and product suite to the Cosmos Hub. So I think that on that side, there's a lot that's coming, but what's really missing is what's the direction we're going to, right? What's the long-term vision for the Cosmos Hub? And I think we as a community, as a Cosmos Hub Atom community, we need to jointly shape this vision and also push it out there, right? And that's where content, marketing, all this stuff comes in, right? It's we need to do a better job at that, because otherwise, people are just hitting me up. Now crypto went up a little bit. What is the first thing people ask me? Bro, I saw this guy talked about
the next 100x, 100x.
Yeah, but they're not talking about Atom. They're not talking even about Cosmos. They ask me about XRP, about ADA, right? About Doge, about these coins. Those three, like specifically, they're like what people are mostly aware of. So I think we just need to do a much better job at raising awareness. And that's also on the community to push forward.
Yeah.
But I think this is something that's severely undervalued in Cosmos, is raising awareness, right?
I strongly agree, Cito. And like, you've done more than anyone, honestly, for that. And I think that it's a big failure of the founding institutions of Cosmos that we never funded marketing in a realistic way. And, there's a lot of things that haven't been funded in a realistic way too. And I think that that's always been a challenge.
Yeah. I mean, look at Solana, right? Like Solana is so huge. Is it so huge? Yeah. And what do they have? They have the super team program. Like, have you looked into super team? What they have done there?
No.
We need this we just need to copy paste super team for Cosmos. In 1 year, Atom is at top 10. Like, it's just, Solana has done an absolutely amazing job at building out a global incentivized program to onboard developers, users, educate the community, build a community, also go into regions where they identify as like high crypto population, high potential, Turkey, Southeast Asia, South America. They go to Dubai, UAE. Right now, today is day one of the Cardano summit here. There's huge Solana events. There's satellite meetups left and right. People are just learning about this. No one's learning about Cosmos. We don't have these initiatives. We don't have access to also funding this. And this is also something I really want to think about. How can we fix this? Because education and raising awareness.
Cito, what we need is a marketing DAO on the hub. And, you remember Prop 34.
Yeah.
Like, we used to have it. It was successful, and then it never got funded again. And the people who were involved never got paid. No one got recognition, and we basically got yelled at for it. I think that, a marketing DAO on the hub is badly needed. And I think when we're thinking about spending huge chunks of money, like, that's a thing we need to spend huge chunks of money on. And, I think, Cito, you would be a great person to lead that, and trying to find some other content creators and key folks within the ecosystem to help steward that treasury would be a fantastic use of time.
Yeah, and I think, I wouldn't even want to like start something from scratch, but now we have the AA DAO, we have even Cosmoverse as a brand that could be leveraged for something like this. But I think this goes back to your question earlier, like the informal proposal. Like, you have now different teams being funded directly from the Cosmos Hub community treasury. And I think if something like that would exist, it would have to go hand in hand with all these teams, right? Because now you have more and more teams being held accountable from the hub directly, from the community. And any marketing and content narrative around that needs to be aligned with that. Otherwise, it's not as effective, right? So that's really, I think, the challenge for the hub. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's not that easy. It's not an easy fix. It requires a lot of resources, coordination, and money. A lot of money. A lot of.
The hub needs to spend it. We've increased the size of the community pool. We've got the money. Like, we should start allocating that and getting it out there. And I believe that the reason Prop 34 was so successful was timing. We talked earlier about cycle timing when you're entering the industry to work, and like using your time as your investment. And like, this is another one. If we invest the money at the point when the market is down, we get much greater returns, especially when the market starts going up. So, some kind of marketing DAO. You should get Bendy on board. Bendy's a gangster marketer.
Man, like, we talk a lot. I talk a lot with Bendy.
I really like that guy.
He's really good, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of work still ahead. Still, I think, like we said earlier, Cosmos is coming out of this bear market very, very strong. Noble USDC or native USDC through Noble is a big win for Cosmos. Native USDT through Kava is also a big win for Cosmos. Celestia launching, Sane Network launched, DYDX migrated. What are you mostly excited about, like out of all of these, or is it the whole picture coming together? Like,
it's the whole thing coming together. Yeah, because like, you know, the work that I've done has touched a number of those projects. But it's only when they all come together when they make a big difference. You know, if we want this tech stack to be successful, we need 5 more of these projects of Celestia size over the next year. And I think we'll get them. But it's, you know, these are, when we talk about developers building on top of the stack, this is what developers building on top of the stack brings. Like huge projects, big launches, like these big opportunities for us. And we need to make that as repeatable as possible and continue to gather that mind share. And it's, you know, it's the thing that takes years to bring through. I remember when Ishmael quit Tendermint back in, God, I guess it was 2019, a little after we launched the hub, and he was like, hey, I'm going to go build this thing called Lazy Ledger. And I was like, explain Lazy Ledger to me. And he said a bunch of things that I didn't understand. And I was like, Ishmael, that's really cool. I can't wait to continue to work with you over the next few years. And, you know, now it's 2023 and Celestia finally launched. So, you know, those long-term developers are the folks that end up launching these like huge projects that change things, and keeping those folks around, ensuring that they have the tools that they need to build, like that's the important work. And, you know, I also think that the marketing stuff that you're talking about, Cito, like that's also important work that's not being done. And I mean, you're really making me think that we need a marketing DAO on the hub.
We do, yeah. I agree. And like, we can talk about this for a long time, but I think especially for content creators, like there needs to be a way that also creators get funded in a way, and let's not say funded, but incentivized to produce quality content. And like, I understand the landscape, but you can do it in a way that it will have a huge impact. And somebody was commenting on Hoskinson, Stephen again, like Hoskinson being a big time salesman, but that's probably a huge part of the success of ADA, right? Is the fact that Charles did weekly YouTube deep dives for 2-3 hours, whiteboard sessions for years. He himself is a huge influencer, right? Vitalik is a huge influencer.
Yep.
I mean, he's a celebrity in crypto, right? And like, Cosmos doesn't have that, which actually is also good because that means it doesn't depend on one person. But that's probably also why there isn't this awareness around it, right? If you ask like who founded Cosmos, like most people won't know. So that's just a side effect of how Cosmos is structured and the mentality also in the ecosystem, I think.
It is. Cosmos doesn't have a salesperson that the whole community at large likes. I would say that that's true because there's huge chunks of the community that don't like me.
Yeah. Because you're the cartel leader. That's why they don't like you.
I'm the cartel leader.
Of course.
Oh, I love that.
Or is it Zaki? I don't know. Who's the leader? If anything, I want my own cartel. Okay, I want the Cito cartel.
Yeah, well, the way you start the Cito cartel is by raiding a community pool, Cito. Don't you know? Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, the marketing DAO is the best idea to come out of this. I think that's a great idea. I think we should do it yesterday.
Yeah, but I mean, if somebody does it, and like, I don't even know, like, honestly, because I know it's a huge ton of work putting this together, resources, you know. And like I said, I mean, yeah, it's just a lot of work. So I don't know.
When you do it, make sure you put payment in the proposal, because otherwise no one will pay you for it.
Yeah,
they won't pay you, and then they'll hate you for the work that you did.
That's a good advice.
Yeah.
Only cartel members would know this, right? Cartel founders.
Yeah,
but yeah,
founders.
There's some people. Okay, now we got also Aaron here. I saw this Atom Accelerator DAO. Actually, like they're also preparing for the second mandate, and I think they're also in a very good position. I actually want to work with them on these ideas as well. And like I said, yourself and the team.
Atom Accelerator DAO, Cedo, Marketing DAO. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, I have to sleep on it. But yeah, man, super productive today. I think we got 75 people. Is there any? What's your end of year roadmap? What's your goals for this year?
We're gonna cut this knot. The Cosmos SDK is gonna run on top of Gordian. That's the big engineering deliverable that we're sprinting to towards the end of the year. And we'll also be open sourcing Gordian sometime in the next few weeks. We had a large number of changes that came through right around Cosmoverse to enable that demo. And we're in the middle of deleting some old code and cleaning up the repo for open sourcing. But yeah, I think that's a really exciting development.
Nice. Cool, man. So thanks everyone also for the engagement, for the questions. I don't know if you saw any questions you want to address. Other than that,
try to hit them up as we've gone through.
Let me see.
Yeah.
Maybe Cosmos needs more meme shitcoin projects like ETH. I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know. We got plenty of those.
What was the one? Fortis?
God, the dungeon.
Fortis the dungeon.
Never getting that money back. It's locked in the dungeon, one might say. I think I've still got a BFOT UST LP that's sitting in Fortis, which is like the funniest fucking thing in existence. Oh God. Solana seems much further along than Cosmos. Mark, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that, look, when you're a project with a strong central leader, you advance along different axes than when you're a project with a lot of strong leaders that are sort of advancing out. Yes, Solana is much further along a single axis, but Cosmos has a much deeper and broader base. I think a lot of the developers that came into Solana were highly incentivized by the developer incentive programs that Solana did. And a lot of those folks have left. They went over to AI or wherever the mercenaries go. And there is a strong core community over in Solana. Jordan and Levi and, those are two ex-cosmonauts that I know are key members of that Solana developer community. But the folks over there are smart. They're extremely hardworking and they're doing a great job. But they're driving in a very concerted direction. They have a vision. They have a where they're going. Whereas Cosmos is kind of pushing outwards in a lot of directions simultaneously. So I can see how it might look that way, but I do think that Cosmos is also extremely far along in delivering our vision as well. Yeah,
but still, Sol pulled a clean 2x over the past 2.5 weeks from a $9 billion to a $17 billion market cap, which is just they increased triple the size of Atom.
Yeah.
And during Cosmoverse, Atom didn't do any access.
Yeah.
And if you look at Breakpoint, what happened there at the conference, it's just ending today, I think. You have celebrity speakers, like people that make waves when they talk, right? So I think that's really what I want to emphasize here is like we need to slowly branch out, because I also think like sometimes on Twitter it's a bit of an echo chamber, family reunion kind of vibe. Everyone's like saying, "Oh, cartel this, cartel that." Maybe it's funny, maybe it's I don't know if that's productive, but I think we need to slowly branch out of the Cosmos family reunion and get these people at least aware of what's going on in Cosmos.
Wrongly agree, Cedo. But I think that I strongly agree.
Yeah.
So before I say anything else, I just want to make sure that's clear. I do think we need to retain a space for the people who've been here for a long time and the people who are really dedicated to go and meet. And that feeling of this sort of like family reunion thing. Like, we should keep that. You know, maybe it's not Cosmoverse. Cosmoverse is the big conference where all the celebrities come in, and that's great. Maybe we need to sort of like chisel out another space. But yeah, I think that's really important.
No, I think even Cosmoverse, like, you know, still at the core, and that's also like, I think the choice of venue, the choice of location plays, you know, into it. Like, we basically stayed together for a week in the same hotel, right? I saw you running around at the breakfast. We had
all the time
on the rooftop bar. Like, that's the whole experience. But I think on top of that, you can still have, you know, Vitalik, Balaji's, Brian, CZ, right? Like, we want to get these guys to come in the future. But it's work that needs to get done. Anyways, it's your birthday. Happy birthday again.
Thank you, sir.
Enjoy your day. Get some time off the screen with family. Go hiking. Do what you enjoy most. And I'll see you soon and talk to you soon.
Awesome. Cito, thank you. Talk soon. Have a good one.
Cheers, man.